All right, we're back. It's been another week in the world of Counter-Strike, and we're here to retake it. Of course, it is, as always, joining me, Quacke. He will be joining me every time we do this show, but I thought I might as well announce it anyway. So, been a lot of events on. Let's just start with the formalities. Quack, how you been?
I've been alright. I had a concert last night. If you know Royal Republic, you know that they fucking bang. So it was good. It's very good. My first arena concert ever, actually. It was pretty cool.
First arena concert.
Yeah, it was like in the arena, so they had like the grandstands. I mean, I had one of the what do you call it, like standing tickets.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty cool, pretty big turnout. The singer is from near here, so like it was yeah, good shit.
All right, great. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. But let's get into the important stuff. Quick announcement before we get into the real topics from the week. Prospects, new episode coming out Wednesday. I can promise you this. It's been... Thank you for the reaction. It's been a long time coming, mostly because, well, trying to watch demos, record clips from demos, interact with demos in general has been an up and down affair with CS2. And I finally managed to reach, a completed stage. I've got everything done pretty much 100%. It's just going to be released on Wednesday to keep the video schedules a bit spread. I'd hate to have everything crammed up in one day, so Wednesday night, or afternoon, depends on where you are in the world. New episode of Prospects, so yeah, look forward to that. But let's get right into it. Okay, first topic, biggest event really going on right now, and that's Blast World Finals. Man, it's a weird time for Counter-Strike. It's a really weird time. We've got all the rosters being changed up, unsure. Things look like they're going to be changing massively. But amongst all that, there are some bright spots. We saw, perhaps, I think, so far, the best run Na'Vi have had with Alexi B, I want to say. Because it's not been a great time. They've had a lot of roster confusion, changes. Alexi B unable to really implement his system, I think, as he wanted to. But this was an actually positive run. We got really good performances out of players like Bit and Imma, which is something we haven't seen really at all. Imma, being an actual star player, has been kind of missing since he joined this roster. Had some great maps, especially against G2, I think, in that sort of Alexi B revenge match. That was really great. They went out in the semis, as I think most of us predicted they weren't really going to be able to go all the way to the final. We've got two very clear top dogs in CS right now. But all in all, a great run. Quack, did you follow this one? Did you really get with the storyline? Because it was a pretty big one.
I followed along a bit. Yeah, it was. It's been a good event for a lot of teams. A bad event for some expected teams, I guess. Navi being one of them. I think it's worth talking about. Emi, obviously. I hope it's not just like one of those one-offs. Because people have talked at length about like how, me included, about how Emi has underperformed largely because of the position he's in. Like the difference between his Navi responsibilities compared to his Gamer Legion responsibilities. So I'm happy that he's managed to find it working. I hope it's not just like a one-off where, you know, he goes crazy, like doesn't matter what position he plays, he just goes crazy, but like rather that he's actually found a way to work with the position he has. And I'd be curious if maybe Simple not being here and Wonderful being here instead might have something to do with it. Like maybe this distribution of space is maybe a bit more even, perhaps. But that's for you analytic folks to be talking about. I like the fact that Alexi B has now has a 100% win rate on best of 3 LAN against X teams since he got booted from ENCE in 2019.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I stole this from Tony, and even if you count like online series and everything, it's still like 15-2. Like it's insane. Every time he plays an X team where at least one player is remaining, he just wins.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess he it's probably a vendetta thing, because I can't imagine you can particularly game plan for like one or two guys who have left over, completely new system, new everything else. It's just a personal vendetta. Yeah, he gets up in the morning, he's like, this one's special, circles it on the calendar, everyone has to show up. This is the one time, like, guys, we can throw every other event, underperform, look shit, but as long as we beat those teams, we've done our job. Bonuses for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I guess it kind of begs the question, like, could you say then that every team that Alexi B leaves gets worse? Could you say that? And that's why he wins?
I mean,
or
it'd be hard to, wouldn't it? Considering, well, he left G2, they won two premier events, like two of the most premier events of the year.
Yeah.
It's not like they plummeted. Sure, consistency's an issue. They keep changing the roster. There's certain things you can say about G2 that aren't positive. They're not free from critique. They've not been the best team in the year. But if you look back on the year, they won 2 of the most prestigious events. So it's not been that rough a ride. It's not been that bad, has it? It's not a massive plummet. So the other big team that I'm not sure you want to say upset the odds, considering they are like the 3rd highest ranked team at this event, but a team that came in with a bit of a stand-in situation, Broland replacing Frozen on Mouse, and still managed to maintain their form. It looked a bit sketchy for me, especially when I watched them play the G2 game. I was like, oh, I was not expecting G2 to be particularly good with this roster, and Mouse made them look really fucking good in that opening game. Like, that was not a pretty showing. 2-0, bounced down to the lower bracket. But they fought back. They managed to make it all the way back to the semis, actually, before losing to FaZe, one of our 2 good teams right now. Well, good elite teams, I want to say. And so I think, yeah, not only is this good sign for Broland himself individually, had a good event, had a good showing, but I think it's a really good thing when you talk about Shuhei. Like, he's able to make it work with a new guy, new responsibilities. He's a completely different player to Frozen. Like, sure, he's also got skill and has couple tendencies, maybe you could say, oh, he likes taking this entry position. But for the most part, he's just managed to adapt it, make it work, call a little bit on the fly, and have a really impressive run. So yeah, I think big ups for Shuhei, especially in my eyes. This is a massive, massive telltale sign that he's actually got himself figured out in this Mouse system. It's no longer just running on good vibes and the old hype from Gamer Legion. He's just a really good caller.
Yeah, it's hype for Shuhei, it's hype for Broland. I think it was interesting, Broland said in his interview, because I really expected, I thought it was a bit weird that Broland came in here. Like, if I was going to take one of the 2 benched NIP players and put them in Mouse, like as a Frozen replacement temporarily, I'd take Hampus for Frozen's positions. Like, it fits better. But Broland came in, and I was like, he is going to clash with Sershan for sure. But then he said in the interview that, like, no, I'm not just a plug-and play. Like, I came in and they prioritized me, like I am playing my positions, and then they moved around me, which is really interesting for a stand-in. Either it means that they actually want to shake things up for the new season, like maybe they can't just plug and play someone into Frozen's positions, they need like something different. Or it is just like Shuhei went, well, you know what, if we're going to do this stand instant, we're going to do it properly, so I'm going to do my homework, and we're going to make sure that we make this work, rather than just, it's not a throwaway event. So cool for Shuhei, cool for Bolin. I think it's a positive for Bolin's career that he made quarters as a stand-in this team.
Yeah.
He played alright individually. They did beat Cloud9. Pretty crazy series. That one I do remember. With the 13-1 and then the 8-0 T side. Sorry, 12 rounds in a row.
Yeah, that was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, big ups to Sui, of course, for that one.
Yeah, impressive. And let's just actually wrap this up, because we don't actually know what's happening in the final. It's not starting for another 45 minutes. Let's just throw out a quick prediction, a quick conversation about this. Vitality FaZe, it seems to be the eternal matchup right now. It makes sense. They both look really strong. I'm going to take Vitality to win this, actually, though. I think Vitality win this. I've really liked the way they've been playing. Apex finding impact left, right, and center has been shocking, but bloody impactful. Like, it's been amazing for winning. And the fact that Mezzi's fit in so well, he's had some amazing games for them. Zywoo looks comfortable, looks like he's fragging out. The fact that they then also have Spinks on top of it, that I haven't even mentioned yet at that point. Yeah, this team is looking really, really solid. And FaZe, they made the grand final, but I think they're finally sputtering a little bit. They'll need some time off to really work to integrate Frozen and figure out how best to approach the next season. I think this is the final stand. A great grand final to reach, but I think Vitality take it.
I mean, you'd think so, but I might just pick Frozen just to be the contrarian here. I think Frozen... or FaZe, I mean. I think Frozen might be kind of like... I think he could go big in the final. Like, I think in the final in particular, he might just go nuclear because, like, make a stance. Like, I'm here now. I'm here in FaZe. And Rops has been great. He's probably going to keep being that great. Even Rain has had a pretty high level in this event. So, yeah, I'll take FaZe for this one.
All right, well, it doesn't bode well that I've actually picked against myself, because in my preview series with Yumi in the double swing, I actually do have FaZe to win the event.
You see, you can't believe a word that this guy says. Like, don't listen to anything on his YouTube channel. He's just full of shit.
Yeah, before the event, I liked the idea. Just slot him in, make him work. I mean, we'll pretend I had first pick. I didn't. But it's interesting. We'll see how that goes. Either way, I win. But in this case, I do think genuinely in the moment this is how it's going to work out. Interesting event, though. A lot to talk about, I think, with some other players, but they're going to come up in the next segment, especially the main one we want to talk about. Because the next segment is Prospects of the Week. Now, I'm going to let Quacke lead off on this because he's the most relevant to Blast with his pick. And then I'll get into mine. But yeah, first up, who have you taken?
I've taken Siphon, even if Heroic absolutely fucking bombed out of this event. I think Siphon keeps showing that he has a high enough level to play in Tier 1. Like this, there's no fucking words for how bad this Heroic roster is right now because it's dead. It's completely dead. Like, if rumors are true, they don't want to keep Tessus, they don't want to keep Dupree, and they only want to keep Shush. Salazar is just bad. I have no idea why he's even on this as a stand-in. Farlig is somewhere out there. Like, I'm not trying to say that Farlig is some top tier opper, but fucking Salazar is just he's not even good on ecstatic. Like,
I know why he's been chosen. It's because he has a lot of basically stands in the scene, behind the scenes. You'll hear people talk about him, say how for a while he was the guy they all thought would be the next guy up. He's really impressive. But I agree. I didn't see it on the team he was on before. I didn't see it when he was on ecstatic. It's a bit like Cabby. I always heard people were up Cabby for a while, and I was like, really, Cabby? I'm sure he's a nice guy, but no, I didn't think he was that good. Salazar thinks the same boat. I'm not that impressed. But anyway, back on topic.
Back on topic. Siphon, he put up a 1.06 despite losing constantly. He's not even a big player in good roles. Maybe on this team he is, because it feels like everyone here is a bitch role player, and then Salazar. But yeah, he did alright. He did alright, and I think Siphon, if there is, obviously, we're gonna get to this later, but the ENS rumor fell through completely. The ENS core players moving to Heroic, at least the full 3. And so they're obviously rebuilding. I think Siphon is someone who should be on Heroic right now. He's already on a loan deal from Sprout for this stand-in thing. Really weird to do a loan for a stand-in. But they are. So, yeah, I like Siphon here. They seem to like him. I know that there have been rumors that he would be in here, even before the Snake stuff kicked off. Yeah, I think he should definitely be in Tier 1. Sprout is way too low a level for him. And I think this is the time that he kind of breaks through. I think 2024 will be the year that Siphon is in Tier 1, stays in Tier 1, and does alright.
Well, that's kind of what I'm hoping for, because he was featured on an episode of Prospects. It was both him and Yabby. Back when they were both on Copenhagen Flames, making semi-impressive runs, stabby, at the majors, outperforming expectations, getting Hooksy a job in G2, doing all this pretty impressive stuff.
Yep.
And for me, Siphon, I said it in the video, I was mechanically, he's a better aimer. He's just a better aimer. Yabby was a more natural playmaker. He made better rotations. He found impact in a more autonomous way. He was really a playmaker in that team. And that carried over in Heroic until he decided to be in cahoots with Stown and make that move happen. But I was really disappointed that no one found a good spot for Siphon. I thought the Sprout rebuild promising initially when it was him and Stare, and they were making some a decent go of it in smaller events. So yeah, the fact that he comes into this event, he looks like the only player on Heroic who cares about winning. I mean, sure, he's not taking aggressive fights, he never has, but the fact that every time they were a 2-on-4, he was one of the 2. He was able to just pick players off left, right, and centre, just taking raw aim duels against some of the best players in the world and just banging their heads off. I think it shows you can put him on a team, ask him to do some stuff, and he will do it. That was the point of him in Copenhagen Flames. You put him in a bomb site, 2 people will die. Let him just shift walk out mid on Ancient, he will one-tap the AWPer. He is going to out-aim people. He just never really gets the opportunity on a good team to do that. He just never got the right structure. So really excited for Siphon. And I'm going to get into a player who's really come out of left field just because this entire bloody roster has. No one expected much from the Mongols when they rebuilt. They dropped Score, Annihilation, big names for them. And then they picked up names who, even if you paid some attention to the Mongolian/Asian scene, you may not be too familiar with. But those players have ended up being really impressive, and the one I want to highlight is Senzu. Senzu is 17. There's so many ridiculously young players in this scene, and he's been playing lights out CS for this roster, especially at the ESL Challenger, whatever you want to call it, Atlanta 2023. The roster had no right making playoffs on paper. They have made playoffs, and it's mostly thanks to Blitz being the IGL/star fragger, but without Senzu, they wouldn't be here. He's put up ridiculous numbers. He's hitting heads left, right, and centre. He looks so mechanically clean, and also somehow this is where the credit to Blitz also comes in. Looks so comfortable in this like sort of big event with like proper tier 1 to tier 1.5 sort of teams. Like he's completely unfazed by all of this and just fragging out. So the kid's been monstrous. He's not exactly like the clutching type. I don't think he has any clutches. He's more of the knock the front door down rather than clean things up kind of guy. But my god, really impressive run. He's been very solid for them in the overseas games. The fact that he's outperforming his home numbers whilst abroad is insane. I can't wait to talk about this kid more. Watch out for that. He's been an absolute beast, and he's my prospect of the week. So yeah, I'm not sure you follow much Asian CS, but did you able to catch any of his games?
I looked at the show notes earlier before the show, and then I said out loud, "Who the fuck is this guy?" No, I'm looking through his history. I recognize him, like his name slightly from like NKT. He was benched there. He was on the weird team that was revived the Mongols brand briefly before these guys did it, like, and then it died again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's 17. He's got a lot of time to develop, and apparently he's already done a bunch of stuff. But it's cool that he's breaking out, especially like abroad. In what is now 5 maps. We're gonna get to that event later, but in these 5 land maps against good opposition, he's done really well. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see what he does today, actually, in about half an hour.
Yeah.
Once again, always recording before the finals. This goddamn show, but
yeah, it's a bit of an annoying one that to be on a Sunday having to record the show. But to be honest, this event is stupid. Like, why are we playing the semis and the grand final on the same day? I always hate when events do that. Just take an extra day of non-stage play to sort out some of the bollocks, so we can just get stage days be the playoffs. Like, not have one day where we cram everything in. Like, that's just frustrating to me.
Yeah, this team though, it's kind of crazy. This team, because it's just full of prospects. Like, there's
it really is.
Blitz is the senior character here, and he's my age. He's 22.
Yep.
And he's like the so kind of crazy. Like, there's definitely Techno as well has been great in the past as well. I remember when IHC were banging.
Yeah, Techno on IHC was basically, no matter who you put me up against, I'm going to win over half my aim duels. Just no matter what. Like, his mechanics, again, we say this so often about Asian players, but especially I think the most recent crop of Mongolian players is like, yeah, once they figure out how to play against international higher level competition in terms of style, they're going to start being really dangerous, because there's no end to the amount of fraggers they have. Like, they got guys who can frag with the best of them. They just don't have a lot of structure, don't have a lot of experience. They need to figure that out. Obviously, I'm not sure how that's going to take shape with, every event series seemingly reducing Asia spots. But there's definitely something there, something brewing over in the Mongols.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can show us more. Like, if winning this event would be a massive, massive step.
They did get kind of crushed by Apex in the groups. Though in Sunsu's credit, I want to say he had a pretty high floor in that series, or at this event. That's probably the lowest point of this whole event, that map, and he still put up a 1.06. So good for him.
Yeah.
But we'll get to this event, but it's gonna be rough for them if they're gonna win. But yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy road, but yeah, let's move on. We got something else to talk about in between. It's a new segment. I'm going to make it a recurring segment, just like we have Prospect of the Week. We now also have the Eternal Shuffle. So that's what I'm going to call it. We try to pretend it's like, oh, this is season roster mania. Like, no, there's always some nonsense going on. People getting dropped, people getting signed. There are specific times of the year where it's going to come up more often. But right now, I just want to say the Eternal Shuffle, always going on. And let's start with, I think, for me, the most exciting move, just singularly, it's Spirit Shiro. When Shiro steps down from Cloud9, I don't think anyone really knew what to expect, like, at all. But the fact that he steps down and eventually just gets announced to be playing alongside Donk on this Spirit roster, who already, with just Donk, Frost, and to a slightly lesser extent Zontix and Magix, looked like they were like ready to start really competing. The fact that they then go, you know what, that AWPer, who's been solid, isn't good enough. Just get me the casual, like, third best AWPer in the world by many standards. It's now a really competitive top group. Like, Simple's kind of out of it, but we still have like Shiro, Munisi, Zywoo #1. But how long is that going to last? It's a lot of fun right now. And Shiro going to Spirit, pairing him with such an aggressive, like, impactful rifler, an IGL who's been really good at drawing water from stone with his roster in the past. Man, I'm excited for this. This team looks absolutely crazy.
Yep. It's the kind of move that Spirit have already done once before, and it made them crazy. Because you will remember that Spirit at one point played with Idis Balance, and he was doing alright. Like, he was solid. He was probably not as good as Artfrost has been, but he was definitely doing his job. As I recall on Spirit, he was by no means slacking. But then they put in Dexter, an obvious prodigy. So, yeah, it's the same kind of move. Like, they already had a solid AWPer. Yeah, Idis Balance was 1.12 at that point, which is alright. But then, of course, they put in Dexter, who is better by such a wide margin. And Shiro, I honestly, fully honestly, I thought this year would be the year Shiro would properly break out. Like, he already has, but like properly be a clear top 1 contender. And for a bit, I gotta be honest, he kind of was. Early in the year, he was definitely up there statistically at the very least. Okay. Sort of held back by his team, not really doing anything, which is obviously part of his fault as well. But like, yeah, he kind of fell off towards the middle of the year or so, and then apparently he leaves. I have no idea why. I guess I do know why he left. Cloud9 kind of sucked. But I also like, you watch all of these interviews, like Axile. He really loves playing with Axile. Like, Axile is like his best friend. You had Boomage coming in, which was like a great move. I don't know. It feels like a weird move to leave, but if he's gonna leave, Spirit is the destination to go. So I'm happy they apparently can get him.
Yeah, I don't know. The reasons to leave always seemed a bit weird and murky, because I thought they seriously had a super team in the brewing on Cloud9. Like, even if they hadn't figured it out yet with who exactly would call and how to get the most out of players like Electronic and Axel on the same team, you'd think surely they'd figure it out eventually. And this is the place to be as a Russian player. Like, the Russian dream team, like, on paper, is the place to be. But it didn't work out. I think he has taken a step down in terms of overall roster level next to him. Like, there's no Perfecto, there's no Axel, there's no Electronic, but there is Donk. There's the future. He's gone from the current to the future of the Russian scene in terms of riflers, and that's something to say.
Yeah, there is no Perfecto, and there is no Boomage or Hobbit. Well, I guess there's a Boomage, it's Chopper. But there's no Perfecto. There might be a future Perfecto. I really rate Magix as like a player to look at. He's like one of the next Perfectos. Zontix has honestly impressed me as well, because I thought he would just kind of came in because like they needed someone, but he's been great. Like, he's kept a high level.
Do you know what's weird? I actually think Zontix is there basically upon request of Donk. Don't quote me on that. I feel like I read that somewhere, and maybe I shouldn't say it too loud, but I'm pretty sure, it was a Donk for comfort wants to play with Zontix.
Alright, yeah.
So they both were academy players together.
I don't mind that, to be honest. If that makes Donk work, and he's keeping a good level, so it's good.
He's keeping a crazy level.
Yeah.
If he does this in like a full year of tier 1 play, he would just be the #1 player in the world. If he's putting up those numbers.
Yeah, do you know what this is? This is like Eternal Fire if they were 10 years younger and Russian. Like, it's because you have this insane, hyper aggressive rifler, and now you have a proper good like tier 1 level opera coming in. Which
I
I'm
can
gonna
kind
say
of see what you're going for. Yeah,
I'm gonna say Woxic is that proper tier 1 opera. He is. I won't have any slander for Woxic, but
he was at one point. Yeah, 5 years ago. But yeah,
still is. All right.
oh, we'll
Anyway,
see. ESL Pro League next year. I think Eternal Fire are there, right? That's going to be
yeah,
something.
definitely they're hot right now. So yeah.
But, yeah, no, okay, I don't mind the comparison. Another move that just happened and I think is salvaging a disaster of a roster is Falcons signing Madden and Sampaius, officially announcing Magisk and completing the roster. Because initially they had only announced Snappy. Snappy was the first guy technically officially announced by Falcons, and then the next three riflers got thrown out, well, three players got thrown out there. Man, this is a... I thought things were going to go really to shit, and we talked about this on the show briefly, about the Sampaius rumor, taking Sampaius to Falcons. I honestly thought that was dead. Like
this one, I don't know if it was even a rumor, if it was just people saying, "Well, Snappy is going. Why can't Sampaius? Like, he's the best stopper they can."
It was
right now, like...
so weak, right? The whole the story around it, and then I honestly thought we were looking at a roster of Boros, Magisk, Snappy, and then bring back MHL and Laon X like full time. Like, is that what we're gonna do?
That was what KRL said. That was what KRL said, and I want people to remember that when they look at KRL's Twitter and he starts spouting some other nonsense in the future. That's what he said. He said this was the roster that was finalized. MHL and Laon X.
Yeah, so it seemed like that was going to be it, and I was like, I can force myself to be excited for that roster because I still love Boros. I think MHL showed some like potential a lot of the time. Like, he's been in tier 2 for a while, just fragging out. I thought there was some things to at least try and force some enthusiasm for this roster. Now I don't really have to force it. You've got a borderline, like, he's like the 5th best opera in the world, I want to say. Like, he's up there sort of zone. Like, if you think about it, he's really good right now, Sampaius. Madden is an amazing workhorse role player. Under Snappy, he's been able to have not only like really good fragging performances, but also just give up some resources, not take up too much space, too much effort, and just fit in. So as a role player for Snappy to have, that's great. Magisk, we all know Magisk, the ultimate like third to 4th star you want on a roster. Boros is insane potential. Let's make this work. I think this is a roster that can actually compete. This is a roster that's actually worth talking about. Because, man, if it was just 2 kids and those 3 guys, like, I was a bit about the whole thing.
That was one of the problems I had with the real roster was what Falcons need to do here is they need to build a foundation that makes the proper top players want to come to them in the future. And you're not going to do that if you're simultaneously developing 3 talents. Like, like I think even with this roster, I think the end goal is to have, like, for Falcons, I think the end goal is they want Nico to come in here. They want people like Nico or Zaiwu to feel this is a good destination where I want to be. And like, if you had MHL and Laon X there, you're not like, even in a year, they're not gonna look at that and say that is amazing. I want to go there instead of staying in like in G2. But like, this is great. This is great. Like, Madden and Sampaius are people like Magisk, Snappy, and probably Sampaius at this point are players people want to play with. Madden solid as fuck, and like now you have Boros. Like, there's full focus on Boros becoming the player that he probably should be. Like, there's no one, like, everyone, I feel like everyone on this team except for Boris is just gonna go, Snappy is just gonna go, I want you to do this and this and this, and they're just gonna go, all right, and then they're gonna do it because they have that proper amount of experience. And then, you know, more resources on Boris, like developing Boris into being the player that, like, a proper tier 1 player rather than just someone who does good stuff sometimes. Or a lot of the time, but like,
a lot of the time, because he became basically the ultimate just death machine. Just like, he walks out, he fights everyone, he headshots a lot of them because he's fucking good. But realistically, what he's doing is not like beautiful, structured, tactical CS. It's mid is a place people will be. Put Boros there, he will kill them. That's cool, but doesn't really bode well for the long term. You'll get anti-stratted. Nico will sometimes like just out-aim him, things like that. And it feels like a bit of a waste if you're just throwing lives away. So
I think the Falcons team that they had before kind of showed that Boris isn't really rounded. Like he's not really there yet. Like he has so much stuff going for him, but there's still like some refinement that needs to be done because he didn't do all that well on Falcons. Like he kind of showed that you can't just put him somewhere and he will do stuff. Like there is some amount of work that actually needs to go into it. One of the things I really want to talk about on this team, very briefly, is that Madden and Magisk both being here is pretty great for the time when Snappy eventually retires. Because I remember Magisk obviously has IGL'd a bit before, especially under Sonic. I think that can be a pretty good leadership combo. And Madden is someone I remember Snappy himself saying that Madden is like a natural in-game leader. Like he has so many like personality traits that says this guy would be a good leader. Like he would be. I think in a way he is sort of the successor to Snappy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Madden takes over as IGL once Snappy eventually retires, if he's still in this team at that point.
Okay, I can dig that. I mean, having Madden there as a future, like, I guess, backup plan. That's an interesting idea. I think we've got a long time to go because I expect we're getting at least 2 full years out of Snappy in this project.
Oh yeah.
So
I also don't think that's like the main motivation behind having Madden there. Of course, like he's
just also a really good role player. Like he's also really good for his roles. But no, I think eventually that's a conversation to have eventually, right? Like, it's not, I think, a conversation for now so much, and we'll see how it goes. Because maybe in 2 years' time, Magisk has found a real love for it. He's really developed a connection with Zonic, and they move on in that way.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea. I think, Madden's always been talked about as a guy with leadership qualities and a good mind for the game. Even if you didn't get that impression during like his FPX Phoenix days where he was like, quote unquote, like the brain dead entry guy, like just running in, blowing up bomb sites. It was fun to watch, but it wasn't, you never thought this guy's going to be a real thinker for the game. It's just what we've learned, throughout him developing on other teams and conversations with like former teammates. We're like, actually, no, he is pretty cerebral. He can also just be the guy who dies for the team, and that's great. So really excited to see what Falcons do. The final team we have to talk about, well, there's 2 technically, but the one primary one that links to the other one, it's going to be one we talked about before a bit, Heroic. We know they're not getting the Ents core for obvious reasons, so we now have to ask ourselves pretty simply, what are they building? Just what are they building? We don't even know if they'll have a roster beyond what they're keeping Shush, we think.
I think what was rumored was they wanted the Ents core. If they got the Ents core, they would boot Tessus, which I guess says if they don't get the Ents core, they might keep Tessus. But it's, that's not really a foundation to build a team on. That we would have booted you, but then we couldn't replace you. So
I guess we'll hold on to you. I'm sorry.
I think the rumor that I think was mentioned on HLTV confirmed was that Nerds is still moving. He's not staying on Ents, and I think he's going to go to Heroic. If we mention why he didn't go to Falcons, you'll get demonetized. But I think he's going there. Shame for Ents. He could fuck it. He could bring Diha with him. Like well, I guess he would kind of clash with Shush, so he's probably not going to do that. But
also we still need an AWPer on this team. Who's IGLing? Like, there's so many questions that just remain unanswered.
Yeah.
If
they stay Danish, the obvious AWPer for me would have been Regali. Honestly, I think that would have been such a good move.
Okay.
But it seems like he's staying in OG.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately, for an AWPer, I have no fucking idea who you're getting here. Dexter, perhaps. I think that was rumored. Honestly, I think at one point it was rumored they would use him as a stand-in this season, but then it didn't happen.
Okay.
I don't really want it. Fuck, man. On one hand, I want Nerds to come here because I think he would do great. I want him to stay in tier 1. On the other hand, I don't see this team being good in any way. How do you make a good team out of this?
No, that's a real question you have to ask because, well, we're going to tie into the other team. The Ents core that was supposed to go to them went somewhere else. Now Ents are rebuilding as well.
Yep.
Who are you signing? Who the hell are you signing? Like, this is going to be an interesting question. I think Ents' recruitment is going to be more unknown young players with development potential. with a combination of some sort of scouting team and Glaive deciding on who they bring in. Obviously, Cuban being part of that. I think it's going to be a very big gambly type of approach they have to take. Like, they can't really guarantee big signings, especially if Nertz moves on. They then have big shoes to fill. And for Heroic, sure, they've got perhaps a little more money to spend. Like, maybe some buyouts have been profitable, but what are we even looking at? Like, full Danish again? Who are the Danes we can go for? Like, what, are we going to go start signing Sashi players? Like, it all
ties together. It's the old bullshit rumor that Nut was going to Heroic. It's coming full circle. Do you remember Nut? It was like a thing.
Yeah.
It was on Twitter for half a day that someone had leaked Nut would be a thing, and then Krona, the dipshit, I tweeted it and people thought it was real. So,
I don't know, man. What are they going to do? Like, bring up TMB and Nikodos from Prezi, and how like Tess says Shush, Zyphon, TMB, Nikodos, or some crap.
I don't think full Danish is a possibility. I think Shush and Zyphon could stay here. Tessus could stay, probably out of necessity. But there's not a lot more Danish players you could get. I think we're going international. I think Nertz is possible. It does sort of. I'm echoing Maui Snake here. If Nertz happens, he made a point on the Blast podcast. I think that he said, at this point, Heroic don't have an IGL, and they're playing with Glaive, and the players are still leaving. Like, if Nertz actually goes, what is this? That's a legit point to have about Glaive. Speaking of an IGL, though, I did just remember a strong rumor that we completely forgot about. Kixan, apparently for a ridiculous sum.
To Heroic, right?
Yeah, I think Thorin said there was like a 7-figure buyout in that move for Kixan.
Kixan? Yes. From Apex?
Yes.
7 figures.
That's what he said. He said, "I wish this buyout becomes public at some point because they're paying fucking simple money for Kixan." Like,
I mean, look, it's a weird market. Supply and demand. There's not a large supply of IGLs who've shown they can do a single thing. Kixan has shown himself capable of doing a single thing. Now, if you're paying that much money for just Kixan, I'm going to lose my mind. Because, like, honestly, I'd want 2 players. I'd want 2 players from this roster. And even then, I'd feel like hard done by. Because didn't Nork just re-signed, right?
Yeah, he's not moving.
So if you're buying out that contract, I get why you're paying 7 figures. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I don't think they are.
So, no, I don't think they are either. So there's no IGL. There's an IGL potentially coming in. There's no AWPA. What are we doing? Just... Oh, it's grim. It's a grim time to be a smallish team without too many resources trying to rebuild, because you're not going to go poaching from the best teams right now.
No, you just don't know.
We can do sign JKS.
Oh, wait.
And I'm not as high on him as Reddit is. I'm not as low on him as like Richard Lewis is. But like, it's an idea. It's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an odd one. It's an odd time. I think we're gonna have a lot more roster mania conversations, or eternal shuffle conversations, as I'm gonna call it, because man, there's a lot of things they need to resolve. And I guess it makes some sense to, if you're a team who's just now had your entire team stolen from you by Astralis, it does make sense to take a season off. Like, next major, this won't be it. We're not going to be a particularly good team at the major. But the major after that, we by default have to try and target that, because we just don't have time to build a legit competitive team, especially if we can't guarantee a slot in the RMRs if we lose too many players. A lot of conversations are going to be had, a lot more changes to come, and I think we're going to have to take some gambles if we're these sorts of rosters, because the Russian Rifler flood is coming. Like, I mentioned it briefly last week, I'll mention it again. Virtus Pro look like they're on the ascent. There's a bunch more players coming. This Bet Boom roster looks really good. Spirit just made a banger move. We thought the CIS Dragon had, fallen to bits after it initially woke up and they started looking real dangerous. It might be on the rise again. It might be returning. So it's scary. It's a scary time to not have a proper roster.
Yep.
But that kind of wraps up the Eternal Shuffle for now. Let's talk about the other big event happening right now. It's the entire playoffs still to come, but that's not our fault. It's their scheduling that's shit. So ESL Challenger Atlanta. This event, on paper, you looked at the groups, you thought, oh, it's going to be interesting. Complexity going to have a bit of a trouble, maybe get out of their group, probably finish second. The other side of the brackets, oh, well, there's no way Virtus.pro and Monty screw this up. And one of those two things was correct. Virtus.pro and Monty did not screw it up. They took care of business pretty comfortably, if I say so myself. Like, Monty played Bestia twice and dropped a combined, 16 rounds across 3 maps. Pretty easy games. Virtus.pro just had to win 2 best-of-1s and just cruised on through. But on the other side of things, in Group A, Complexity, they reverted course. Like, we've said so much about them being on the rise, really, towards the end of this year, having really good runs. Elige looking so good and comfortable, and the team clicking, harmonizing. They looked like a real top 10 to, well, at times they were top 5, I'm not going crazy, like ranked in the world at least. They were a really good team on the rise. Well, they went out in groups. Sure, they didn't finish in last. That was Gamer Legion playing with a stand-in. Understandable, considering they're not even that great without a stand-in.
It was Volt as well. Like, that's a big loss.
Yeah, Volt's a huge loss. So, Complexity lose their opening BO1 to Mongols in OT. Like, alright, like, it's a best of 1. Mongols are dangerous. Maybe you weren't fully prepped. Like, you didn't expect to get your head banged off by like Senzu and Blitz to this extent. They didn't actually really that frag that hard. It was a pretty balanced performance, but you think, that's whatever. Beat Gamer Legion 2-1, a little squeaky bum time, but whatever. Like, yeah, we took care of business. Just got to beat Mongols in our rematch, and then they got battered. It wasn't even close. The opening best of 1, where they lost in overtime, now looks flattering to Complexity. That's how bad that best of 3 was. And at this point, yeah, Senzu really stepped it up. Blitz, Techno, everyone just farming you lot. Like, you never showed up. You're on home territory. What's wrong? Like, did you eat too much at Thanksgiving and now you just got this massive, like, food hangover? You're still in that food coma, like, oh my god. Like, you got no excuse. I don't get this. Like,
no, there is no excuse, because for once, the one excuse isn't there. Halserk was great. Like, he's normally the reason they lose. He was great. He was 1.18. He was matching Elige. Like, what is this? Did I jinx them a few weeks ago? Like,
everyone jinxed them. Everyone's been talking about how great JT's fragging and that deciding best of 3. He goes 13 and 28. Maybe, yeah, Grim and Floppy both really didn't look great. To me, honestly, no one looked good in that final best of 3 that they lost. But of course, over the course of the event, yeah, no one really had the form that was so promising. Like, Floppy being consistently actually good and not just being talked about like he is, was a big part of them being so good. He just went missing. Absolutely missing. So maybe, Atlanta, I've heard it's got great nightlife, great strip clubs. That's why NBA players always end up, getting in trouble out there. Yeah. Perhaps they indulged a little too much in that Georgia lifestyle. Like, a little too much to drink, a little too much money spent, and they couldn't recover in time. Just...
It might be.
It might be the only thing that makes sense at this point, because they have no right looking this horrible on home turf, finally with something to play for, an event they should be taking home. Or at least be competitive. They should be in the grand final against Virtus.pro. Let's put it like that. That should be the grand final in their minds. Perhaps they're already focused on that ahead of time. Who knows? What matters is that this is just a massive downswing for them. This is not what we expected at all. And it seems like the complexity of old, not the complexity of new.
Absolutely.
But unless you've got something more to add about complexity.
Not about complexity. I was going to move on to the other group real quick. Also about fucking NA.
Right. I see where we're going. Yep.
Yeah, M80. Man, like, I like M80 as the idea, and I know that they were also playing with a stand-in. Or I know now. I didn't realize until we talked about this before the show. Def stepping in because Manx wasn't there. I feel bad for Slacks because this was like his LAN debut for this team. He's been great since joining. Malbs and Swisher just keep being so good, but then once it actually matters, nothing happens. They lost. I just to put this into perspective, Bestia is already a name that makes all of you think, who the fuck are these people? They are no one. You might recognize Mayern if you watched Counter-Strike in 2020, the worst time to watch Counter-Strike probably. They came here, they needed 2 stand-ins for visa reasons, and it just so happened to be their 2 best players by far who couldn't make it. They should have not barely even won a round, in my opinion, in this group. Like, they should have done nothing. and they very much did nothing against Monty in all 3 maps they played against them. But they played 3 because they won the elimination game against M80 pretty fucking comfortably. Like, what is? It's just.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, we can put a lot of it down to the, Manx is the IGL. He's missing. You're bringing in Def, who hasn't played competitive CS in 2 years. I think is the quote he gave at the during a pre-game interview. But like, oh my god, Swisher is the only player who had the numbers that you expected out of the 3 top guys. You expect Slacks, Malbs, and Swisher to be like fragging out, showing up. Now Slacks kinda has a reputation. I'm going to be honest. He's been farming tier 2 scenes forever now. Like, the fact that he went to NA and was able to beat their tier 3 teams online didn't surprise me. The fact that he, put up even better numbers than he did on alternate attacks, which he has been using as basically a farming ground.
Backup option, yeah.
He just plays tier 2 teams whilst playing for German sides and just gets his numbers. And like, you got to give him credit for it, but every time they play a real LAN, he's not the same guy. That's always been my perspective on him. So it's not that surprising that he fell off, but I hoped for more from Malbs because I know he's ultra talented. I was hoping they treat this Bestia match like the layup it is. Like, not mentally, but actually on server. Just walk in and dominate, because they should be dominating this roster. And the fact that they fell down, they looked so flat in the game as well, is incredibly disappointing. Like, sure, they got 11 rounds on both maps. You're like, yeah, it's competitive. You shouldn't be competitive against a random South American side with 2 stand-ins. Like, that's not the standard. So yeah, very disappointed in M80. To be honest, I've been souring on this roster for the last couple months just because they came to EU and looked awful. Like, they looked awful. They looked so far behind the pace. It looked like they've been just lounging in NA, winning easy games. That's kind of what it feels like. They come to EU and they just don't look up to snuff at all. It's not like when you've seen in the past, we've had teams like Linvision, what are they called? D13 at the time. When they came to EU, sure, they didn't win every event, but they were constantly competitive, winning series, left, right, and centre. The NA teams who we think are impressive, who we like the look of, I'm assuming this is going to happen with NRG in the next few months. You're like, sick, this roster's working. They're pounding all these NA sides who are just not good. Come to EU, let's see what they're worth. And you watch them get banged out by like Sprout 3 times. You're thinking, fuck, man, that's so much hope for NA. Why'd they have to come to EU and ruin it?
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, so the biggest loser in this North American LAN is North America.
North America. As always. We try to give them an event. We do everything we can to make the scene relevant. And they shit the bed. Oh, well.
Yeah,
but at least on the upside, let's get positive. Let's talk about Asia. Because remember, when NACS gets you down, watch Mongolian Counter-Strike. The Mongols. Blitz is... I called him the Tier 2 Jame. I'm not sure it's not quite perfect as an analogy, because James unique in his calling style, like ultra unique. You can tell it's a Jame team without seeing any of the names, just by the way they're playing, the way they approach rounds. Blitz is...
this season, Jame hasn't been too far from being the Tier 2 Jame, so...
But yeah, no. Yep. Blitz is more... It's just that he's an IGL who, no matter what happens, it seems, on his roster, the roster stays good. Like, no matter who he brings in, no matter who he's working with, he's able to keep on winning. And he himself frags out like crazy. I guess a better analogy, now that I'm saying it out loud, it would be Angel from Hellraisers back in the day. Those who know will know. New fags, I'm sorry. You're just not going to understand. You didn't watch Angel back in the day. But that's kind of what it's like. You just put in random guys next to him, and it's working. Sure, you can give him credit for great scouting, understanding and knowing his scene, for picking up players who do end up performing at the end of the day. But he might be like singularly valuable in that sense, as in he's calling for these rosters, making everyone comfortable, and fragging out. What a G. What an amazing job. I think credit to the coach of this roster, who I don't even know by name. I feel, Mara, that guy. Because he's clearly having a positive effect as well, because there's no way you should be integrating random teenagers into a roster and then just going abroad and winning games. Like, there's got to be something better than just an IGL going, come on guys, we can do it. There's got to be a great support system in place. These players feel comfortable even abroad. What an amazing job. And hopefully, they can go give Virtus.pro a good game in 3 minutes. So that's about to start. So definitely what I'll be watching.
Who do you think wins?
Oh, Virtus.pro will win 2-0, but I think I think Mongols can make it at least fun. That's what I'm looking for. If they can take a map, W. That's just a W. You come abroad with a bunch of kids, like, famous quote, you can't win anything with kids. Well, if they can take a map, that's a win. That's an absolute win. So I'm really looking forward to the game. I always like watching James lead a team anyway, so it'll be fun to watch him just win. Because I don't think they've got a chance. But I think, the big game of the day is actually Apex Monty at 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock European. That game is going to be special. That's going to be a brawl. I want to watch both, though. I'm watching both, of course.
Yeah, Apex is going to be a great game. I'm definitely keeping an eye on that. I think Apex could take home this whole event, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they've done great so far. It's only 2 maps, so not a lot to speak for them, but they are coming off the back of that SPU final, where they definitely could have won. Like, I don't think there's any question that they could have beat Fury, even if they didn't. All those maps were pretty close.
Okay.
Coming off the back of a great form, they've renewed the contract of Knock. I wouldn't be surprised if they've also stabilized their roster a bit, worked a bunch of stuff out. Who knows? Maybe there's changes coming. Kixon leaving. Sense, his future is still kind of up in the air. It might be one of those no pressure, dead team either way. One of those kind of deals. Excited to see how they finish their season, because I'm pretty sure they are doing nothing else for the rest of the year. No, they aren't. Yeah.
Most people aren't. I don't think Apex or Monty can beat Virtus Pro on stage. But
I think they can.
I don't know. I'll be watching it in any case. But yeah, speaking of end of year, we're wrapping up this show. We're also going to be wrapping up the year next week. So, retake the week, it's a week-by-week show, but hey, we're going to retake the year. It's not going to be the most extensive show you'll ever see for the year end, because I don't want to sit here for 3 hours doing top 10s of every little detail, like top 10 AWPers, top 10 riflers, top 10 teams. We're not going to do that, but we are going to have some fun with it. Chat some shit, make some silly predictions, silly calls. Like, I'm sure one of us will make a case for a player to be number one who really shouldn't be, because it's us. We're going to talk. God fucking damn it!
I knew I'd get him in here. I knew it.
God damn, I hate Isak so much at this point. Like, I didn't care that much about him before, but now you keep bloody talking about it. It's getting on my nerves.
Good player.
Can't just put him on every team. But yeah, we're gonna have some fun with it. We're gonna find some silly topics, just a bit of fun to end the year. But yeah, prospects out on Wednesday. This show comes out today. I'm sure you know because you're watching it. And yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.